The Teller, checking in post UFC 246. As you guys saw, it was quite the event. For those of you guys tuning in for the first time, I go by the MMA Fortune Teller, aka The Teller. And what I'm known for doing is fight breakdown videos / prediction videos. And I'm quite good at it. But as you guys can see from the title of this video, that's not what this video is going to consist of. We got a much bigger bone to pick today. And I got a problem with these major sports media outlets such as ESPN, Fox Sports, even your local radio stations. You guys know what I'm talking about. You're strapping up your boots, you're hopping in your car, you're headed to work. I don't care what city you live in. I'm talking about throughout the entire country. And you got Joe Schmo, who doesn't know the first thing about MMA. He's used to talking about the NBA every morning. And all of a sudden, there's this big fight because Conor McGregor's throwing down and he's starting to lift this sport up to a whole nother level. And Joe Schmo has to throw his 2 cents in about the sport of MMA. And it makes you want to barf. These guys they don't know anything, man. They don't know anything they're talking about. And that's fine. They have to do their job and they're put on the spot. You can't expect these guys to know everything. Obviously my specialty is MMA. I put a lot of time into it, basically my whole life over here. But the thing is, when you start talking about guys like Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, these are guys that are on, the tippy top of the mountain when it comes to sports media. These shows, First Take and whatnot, all these different shows. Now ESPN is working with the UFC as well. They have a responsibility to know more about the sport. And what I saw leading up to UFC 246, the week of, and even the fight night, after the fight was all said and done, even hearing Stephen A. Smith sit beside the octagon and talk about what he just saw in there, it was absolutely disgusting. So it all started, I would say it was last Wednesday or last Thursday or whatnot. Cowboy Cerrone, blesses Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman with a little bit of his time, as he's, not doing a major weight cut, but, he's cutting a little bit of weight. He's a little agitated. It's fight week. You could tell he wasn't in the mood to hear any of that BS, but he still blesses them with his time, goes upon their show. And, where does it start? Right away, Stephen A. Smith starts to bring up retirement. His eyes are halfway open. He looks like he just woke up from a nap. The first comment that he has to Cowboy Cerrone, because Cowboy Cerrone stated that he would like to test his striking against Conor McGregor's, which they don't realize. Cowboy Cerrone has amazing striking. His Muay Thai is beautiful. He's a beautiful Muay Thai practitioner. Yes, he has great jiu-jitsu as well. He has good takedowns, underrated takedowns. But these guys, they think that it's so easy just to shoot in and take a fighter down like Conor McGregor, completely underestimating his takedown defense as well, and the danger that it puts you into just shooting for a takedown like that. So these guys, they want to get something out of Cerrone. They want to get him to say he's just going to dive at his ankles the whole entire time, not understanding that the threat that would put him into. But as Cowboy Cerrone, in my opinion, saying the right thing, that, he's willing to test his stand-up against McGregor, that he thinks that his stand-up's even better. Which, you know what? He should feel like that. A guy like Cerrone, who's finished so many people in the sport, I think he has a record of the most head kick finishes. I mean, this guy is a true OG of the game. And then you got Stephen A. Smith, who's basically, mocking Cerrone when Cerrone says that he's going to test his stand-up with him by saying, are you just going to test it out because you just want to give it one old last shot, and you got retirement right on the edge, like this is his last fight? Like, what does that even mean? Cowboy Cerrone's 36 years old. Yeah, he's coming off 2 losses, right? He keeps bringing up those 2 losses. The 2 losses, if Stephen A. Smith actually did his homework or even comprehended the sport, he would understand who Justin Gaethje is, who Tony Ferguson is. We're talking about probably 2 of the top 4 lightweight fighters in the world, I would say, quite easily. Tony Ferguson for sure. I mean, we got a top 3 lightweight fighter in the world, and now Gaethje, as hot as he is, come on. And those 2 losses, there's no shame in those 2 losses. Does he understand before that Cerrone went out 3 times as an underdog and dismantled guys like Ali Quinta, Alexander Hernandez, Mike Platinum Perry, a guy that was bigger than him, a young brute? I mean, does he want to talk about that? I mean, the utter disrespect to Cowboy Cerrone, I can't take it. And again, what it is, it's the utter incompetence of the sport. 36 years old is not far removed from your prime. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'm not saying 36. I'm not saying a 36-year-old Cowboy is as good as a 33, 32-year-old Cowboy Cerrone. I get it. He's getting up there. But 36, it's not the same as a 36-year-old boxer. In the sport of MMA, you can last a little bit longer from, you have more longevity in the sport based on your knowledge of the game because it's so much more complicated. Your jiu-jitsu's better, your fighter IQ's better. And you see it time and time again. You see some of these crafty veterans taking out these young studs. A lot of people have been sleeping on some of these crafty veterans. I mean, go back and, look at a lot of these past cards. So, yeah, I'm not saying that Cerrone is going to be fighting for the belt, anytime soon when he hits 37, 38. But you know what? His career has been pretty steady. It's been a steady flow. He's kind of been pretty much the same fighter his whole career, and he's been a very good fighter. I never thought that he was championship quality. And in my opinion, if he fights McGregor when he's 30 years old, 28 years old, 25 years old, no matter what time in his career he would have been fighting McGregor, he was going to get finished in the first round. And if you guys want to hear what I thought about, Cowboy Cerrone and Conor McGregor squaring off, you can go back to my last video and hear my breakdown. I broke it down already. So I'm not doing that now. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, the treatment of Conor McGregor leading up to this fight, the way that these guys, Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith, talked about Conor McGregor. This guy hasn't won a fight in 3 years. This guy hasn't won a fight. He's trying to remain relevant. If he loses this fight, not even comprehending the guy lost a boxing match to Floyd Mayweather. It was an exhibition bout. It doesn't even count. Scratch it off. He overperformed. He performed amazing in that fight. He should be getting credit for the way he performed in a boxing match, in his first professional boxing match. Do they even comprehend that? Conor McGregor looked better to me than some of the professional boxers that have been fighting, that have 30, 40 professional fights that stepped in there against Floyd Mayweather. Give the guy some credit where it's due. Then he loses to Khabib. Khabib is quite possibly the best fighter in the game right now and one of the best fighters of all time, period. Comprehend it. Comprehend what Conor McGregor did out there in that fight, the way he stuffed the takedown in the first round, the way that he actually won a round against Khabib. Nobody wins a round against Khabib. You see, the reason why I'm going on a rant right now, I got to hear this guy, Stephen A. Smith, go on a rant on ESPN radio every morning about topics in the NBA, in the NFL, stuff that he actually does know a little bit about. I still think I know more about that stuff than him as well. But when it comes to MMA, it's not even close. And this guy, he's going to have to learn more about the sport if he's going to keep getting thrown out there. Because he's making a mockery of ESPN. He's making a mockery of the sport of MMA. And he's making a mockery of Stephen A. Smith. I'm telling you guys. So how about after the fight? What do you think Stephen A. Smith has to say after the fight? After Conor McGregor goes out there, dismantles Cowboy Cerrone in under 1 minute. What does he have to say about the fight? I didn't learn a damn thing. He didn't learn a damn thing about Conor McGregor. His analogy was that he took as many shots in the past week as Conor McGregor took. As if that's a knock on the Notorious One, because he didn't get a strike landed on him in the match. Oh, that's not an accolade. That's not a positive thing that your opponent didn't even get to land a strike on you. Does he even comprehend Conor McGregor's shoulder strikes? The way that he improvised in the octagon? I mean, I've never seen shoulder strikes cause damage the way that Conor McGregor did in that fight. Bloodied up the nose of Cowboy, possibly broke the nose with shoulder strikes, and then eventually used those shoulder strikes to daze Cowboy, and then set up the nice left high kick. Does Stephen A. Smith even comprehend that? He doesn't. He doesn't comprehend the sport of MMA. I'm telling you guys. Joe Rogan was trying to be respectful. You heard what Joe Rogan had to say. He completely disagreed with him. In my opinion, Joe Rogan was way too easy on him. I know if Joe Rogan wanted to, he could have really went in on him, but that wasn't the time or the place. They're there to work together. He understands that Stephen A. Smith doesn't really understand what he's talking about. He's just there, to show face, to rise the sport of mixed martial arts and the UFC promotion. Because Stephen A. Smith, his face carries a lot of credibility in the sports world and for the casual fan. And that's what it was. So we move over to Monday morning, right? Monday morning, you got the entire weekend to break down. A lot of sports happened this weekend, of course. the biggest sports topic of the weekend was the notorious Conor McGregor versus Cowboy Cerrone. So Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith have to touch upon it again. Do you know what their main point of the show was in regards to Conor McGregor being victorious over the Cowboy Cerrone this past weekend? His main point was, is there going to be a rematch between him and Floyd Mayweather? And they went on and they talked about this topic for like 10, 15 minutes. Like anybody wants to see that fight, but whatever. Instead of talking about McGregor really starting to put that pressure back on and working his way to a rematch against Khabib, or setting up a fight for the bad motherfucker title against Jorge, and how dangerous he truly looked. And even after losing to Khabib the first time, how dangerous he looked and the reality of him winning that rematch. No. Guess what these guys had the audacity to say? They compared Floyd Mayweather at the age that he's at, about how people still want to see Floyd come back and fight. It's a spectacle, but it's not even a reality that he can beat guys like Terrence Crawford. Who, if you guys don't know Terrence Crawford's running the boxing game, which I'm not going to disagree with them on that. I think Floyd's a good fighter. I would tend to agree that Terrence Crawford would have that fight. It would be his fight to win. But they compared those two fighters fighting. Max Kellerman has the audacity to compare that and say it's just as if Conor were to get that rematch with Khabib. It would make a lot of money. People would want to see it, but he wouldn't have it. He would have just as much of a chance to win that fight as Floyd Mayweather would have against Terrence Crawford. As if Conor McGregor is an aged fighter that's just famous because of his mouth. That is not one of the most dangerous fighters in the game as we speak. That's not a fighter that just went out this past Saturday and took out Cowboy Cerrone in under a minute in a ruthless manner. They don't understand the game. They don't understand what they're watching. And it's sick. I'm telling you guys, it's sick. Now check it out. I'll be the first to tell you guys. I was there for the Conor vs. Khabib first match out in Vegas. I flew out to Vegas from South Florida. Took the nice flight over there. I had an over $5,000 ticket on Khabib to win that fight. I picked Khabib to win that fight. You could run the tape back. It's all documented. I'm not saying that if these guys were to fight again in 3-4 months that I'm picking Conor to win the fight. But for you to sit there and say Conor has no chance, that's ridiculous. Not even only to say that he has no chance, for you not to acknowledge the fact that there's a very good chance that Conor could win that fight. There's a very good chance. From what I just saw from Conor, I wasn't the biggest believer in him not being dedicated. I thought that was more of a business, little business ploy. He's trying to say, I wasn't fully dedicated. He's trying to set himself up for the rematch. I'll be the first to admit it. But what I saw from him, I don't know. He looks dangerous. He looks dedicated to the sport. He's constantly learning. He looked like he was humbled by Khabib in the first match, and he's a dangerous fighter. These guys still don't get it. They think it's all his mouth. They don't get how dangerous Conor is. There's a reason why he's the most famous fighter in the game of MMA. It's not just his mouth. This guy is ruthless. This guy is a spectacular fighter. This guy has been doing amazing things inside the cage from years ago. I was watching this guy, King of the Cage or whatnot, whatever it was over there in Europe. I was watching this guy slip punches and knock guys out in ways that you just don't see fighters do. This guy is an extraordinary fighter, and these guys just don't understand it. And it's sad that the common folk have to tune in to ESPN, and this is the knowledge of the game that they're learning. It's a shame. These guys need to be taught by guys like Ariel Helwani, the MMA fortune teller, guys that are knowledgeable in the game. And not just Ariel Helwani. There's a handful of guys that really know what they're talking about. The Jimmy Smiths, the Robin Blacks, guys like that, guys that actually know the game. Unfortunately, those guys, they're not in the mainstream media, talking about these fights. But it will change. It will all change with time. Mark my words. As the sport continues to grow, it will be unacceptable to have guys up there that just do not know what they're talking about. They consistently refer to our sport as the entertainment business. McGregor will always have a big fight waiting for him. The UFC it's the entertainment business, constantly taking shots at our sport, as if boxing has these fights that are just waiting to be put out there that have so much substance to them. the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. They constantly want to knock our sport. They knock it because they don't understand it. The sport of MMA is the most complex sport in the world. It is the most truly pure sport out there. And if these guys ever hit the mats, if they ever put a weekend of training, they would start to understand these things. They don't understand, though. Max Kellerman's a wannabe boxer. This guy's, he's a wannabe boxer. I remember him back in the day making little rap videos. He's a wannabe. The guy's a complete wannabe. As much boxing experience as I have, forget about my mixed martial arts experience. I mean, I would knock this guy out with my hands. If you take him in his prime, you take me in my prime, you take me even at my worst, I would destroy Max Kellerman. The guy's a weasel. The guy's a typical ESPN weasel that has a big mouth. You look at all the ESPN commentators. You look at all these guys. I'm not talking about the ex-sports players. I'm talking about the actual pure ESPN commentators. They're all the same thing. A bunch of weasels that barely ever played high school ball, and they think they know everything about the game. I mean, you could see it. They're a bunch of pencil necks. I mean, you see it. You see it time and time again. And, these guys need to know their place, man. These guys really need to know their place. However, in the meantime, the truth will keep coming out. You remember Max Kellerman was saying Conor McGregor will not land one punch on Floyd Mayweather. He will not land one punch as Conor McGregor goes out there and lands a nasty uppercut to Floyd's chin. As I touched upon it earlier, he outperformed himself. I mean, MMA, the sport of MMA has some true athletes, some true studs. You guys would be surprised, at the level of strikers that we have in the game. And you take these boxers, you send them over our way, put them in a real fight, they're all dead. I've seen these guys touch upon that a little bit, but, that needs to be elaborated more. The sport of MMA, it's the real deal. They say, oh, yeah, you send over Conor McGregor to a boxing match, he's going to lose. You send Floyd Mayweather over to the cage and he'll lose. No, don't say it like that. Say it better. You send over Floyd Mayweather to a real fight. You send him over to fight a real fight. Say it like that. Say it for what it really is. If Floyd Mayweather gets in a real fight with anyone in the UFC at the same weight class, he's going to get his ass whooped in a fight. Don't talk about boxing as if boxing is a fight. It's not a fight. Boxing is it's a pillow fight. You can only use your hands. And I'm agitated, so, I'm getting personal with the boxing. But, I love boxing too. Boxing it's a great sport, but don't disrespect MMA. I've had enough of it. And, I hope you guys like and share this video. Let's get this out there. I would love for this to get to the ears of Max Kellerman or Stephen A. Smith. Think about all the times you got to hear those guys open their mouths, man. They don't know anything they're talking about. Think about Stephen A. Smith. I'll tell you. I don't want to hear that shit anymore, man. If you don't know what you're talking about in regards to the sport of MMA, don't open your mouth. Go learn about the sport. If you're going to be up there, you have a duty to learn more about the sport. You're up there. You're on live TV. You're talking about it. You got to get with it, Stephen A. Smith. You're a bright guy. You know what's right. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. It's not right what you're doing up there. Get it together. Learn the sport if you're going to be involved with it. And until then, you're going to be hearing it from the real fans. You're going to be getting chewed out on social media. You know what? And the real fans, when they see you, they're going to say something too. Because if I ever see you, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you everything I've said in this video. I'm going to chew your ears off. So in conclusion, what I would gather from all this, what I would like to see done, I want to see more ex-UFC fighters, ex-fighters up there talking. I want to see guys that have put the time in. Shout out to guys like I talked about earlier, the Ariel Hawanis, the Robin Blacks, Jimmy Smith, all those types of guys. You know what? And even guys like me, guys that never had my time yet to be on the big stage, but eventually may have their shot, but at least guys that actually know what they're talking about. That's what the fans want to see. It may not be me, maybe it's somebody else, but just get him up there. Get a guy up there that knows what he's talking about. Get a guy that knows what he just saw. That's why I admire Joe Rogan so much. Joe Rogan's never stepped into the octagon, but the guy, he's a martial artist, and he knows what he's watching, and he's very educated on the sport. We're lucky to have a guy like Joe Rogan up there. But yeah, like I say in conclusion, I say we all push to get guys that know what they're talking about up there. And, you know, we don't stand for this. We don't stand for this type of stuff. So I appreciate you guys listening. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Please do share this video. Like I said, share the video. Let's get this a lot of notoriety. Let's get this out there. Maybe I'll get back to one of these guys or some of the guys that are making decisions to have these guys up there. Maybe we can put an end to this. So on that note, I'll put my new fight breakdown video. Will be coming out hopefully here by tomorrow. We got Junior Dos Santos taking on Curtis Blades. And on that note, I'm going to sign out. Signing out, the MMA fortune teller.
The teller.